Yes.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump in. So where we got started yesterday, we were looking at this homepage area. So once you've logged into the admin section of the website, this is the page that you'll be brought up. This area has a couple of different dashboards. So the first is the current membership rosters. We talked about how your member types are kind of divided out into these. You can see the different member types along the left-hand side, and then your members, whatever number is following that member type is how many members are in each of those member types. We'll also be able to follow these through the active, the grace status, and the lapse status. And we talked a little bit about how when your members are in their period, they're in their active status, so they haven't expired yet. They've received their first notification, giving them the ability to pay their membership dues. And then once their expiration date has passed, at that point, they're in their grace period. So whatever grace period you guys want to set up for them, that's how long that grace period will last. We'll be able to send out additional renewals during that. They still haven't paid their dues. That's when they end up being a lapsed member. And so to you guys, the only difference is that they're in this lapsed column, but they're still going to be typed. They will never automatically move as a prospect or deleted. Those are things that you guys would have to do manually if you wanted to move them. But for them, they won't be able to log into the member landing page or take advantage of any of that member type pricing. We can also click on any of these numbers and it'll take us right over into the profile list. And then from there, we can contact, export, kind of take action on those members however we want to. We're going to come back today. To get back to that area of dashboards, I'm going to select that home icon in the top left-hand corner, and it's going to bring us right back here. And then we also talked about how in the last 90 days. So this is just pulling out those members that have joined in the last 90 days so you can contact them frequently and quickly after they become a member, reiterating that they've gained being a part of your association. Continuing through, we have our event dashboards. This pull up to 3 past events or 3 upcoming events from your event registrations. It's only going to bring in 3, so it's just giving you a snapshot of info, but you'll be able to look at that information in more detail in the forum. We're going to more about that on our 3rd training together.
We're going to talk about that more when?
Our 3rd, so today we're doing database. The next training is content. Our 3rd training is forms. So we're going to talk all about your event registration forms, how to create those, how to put in the date into those event registration forms, which will pull that info into either the past event attendance or upcoming event attendance.
Okay.
Break it down into one puzzle piece at a time, and then the whole picture will kind of be put together towards the end. But we're just kind of tackling one at a time. So today is just all about the database.
Okay. So this dashboard would show 3 events, but we would always have access to all events, right?
Exactly. This dashboard is just giving you a snapshot of all of this information. So we're just kind of looking at a glance at how many members you have, at a glance your most recent events, at a glance your financials, but we can go into way more detail on any of these items.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So then our financial dashboards, we have 2, aged receivables and sales over time. Aged receivables shows us how many outstanding invoices you have by how many days. So this is going to create a bar graph over time. And at the bottom along here, we have current, meaning those invoices are current. 1 to 30 days, meaning that those invoices are 1 to 30 days past due, 31 to 60 days past due, 61 to 90 days past due, or 91 plus days past due. And then sales over time will actually allow us to change what revenue account we're looking at. We'll be able to see our line graph kind of adjust to how much money was brought in per month per revenue account. So this is once again just giving us a quick snapshot of that information, but you'll be able to look at those pieces of information in more detail. And we are going to actually talk about financials a little bit today as well. Any questions on any of these items, guys? Awesome. The next tab that we're going to take a look at is our settings. So we're just going to go to settings and account settings. Now you guys aren't going to have to come here too often. Once you've graduated and you start calling into the help team for questions, they're going to ask you for an account number. You don't have to memorize it or write it down. It's always going to be housed right here under your account settings tab. This is also a great place to keep track of how many custom profiles or prospect profiles you've used. So as of right now, you guys have used 1,200 in custom profiles out of the 2,500 allotted to you in your level, and only 531 prospects out of the 7,500 allotted to you. You're in the Central Time Zone. Your membership year begins January 1st. You are using QuickBooks.
Hold on, back to the member number. Why are we not using a member number?
Do you want to use a member number?
For what?
So a member number is just going to be this is something that Elliot would have done when he was importing your database. Your member number.
Every member does have a member number.
Okay, so we'll just turn that back on. I'll make sure that he imported that.
Yeah, it's not as simple as 1, 2, 3, and 1,200 and such as that. You know, it's unique by the year that the member joined and which number they got as a new member in that year. So we have unique member numbers, but it's not just a string of numbers, you know. So
okay.
But Carmen can talk to Elliot if need be about that again.
Yeah, and I was thinking that maybe there would a member number inside of member clicks that we might actually have 2 member numbers, but we're just going to sign our own.
And I think all the numbers that are in the member number field are what we gave them from our spreadsheet.
All right, well, Carmen's going to have to work that out with Elliot then.
Yeah.
Yes, they're all in there.
I know that you gave it to
Yeah.
them. It's just a matter of probably, as Adrian said, have them turn it back on.
Okay.
Well, I turned it on. We can just look and see if he did import that information. I imagine he would have.
Yeah, I believe he has. I looked at some members. I think they all had a member number.
Let's see.
I noticed one field that he hadn't imported, and as soon as I mentioned it to him, he did import it. So. They're down there.
Member number. He added it as a custom. You know what? Is it common for you guys to have like dashes and such in the member number?
And some of them have letters on them. I guess I would say.
Got it. So that's why he turned our system member number off, because we can't hold special characters or letters. And so you do have it in here as a custom attribute. And so when you have new members, you'll have to update that with what's given to them. But it'd be better for us to leave it as a custom, because like I said, since our system member number can't hold that information, that's why he did it this way. Yeah,
that's how familiar conversation that we had. So.
Awesome. So we'll leave the member number off for the system and just have that one existing in the custom you guys will update. Perfect. That makes sense. You guys are using QuickBooks, so we have QuickBooks toggled on. Now, and you might have provided this, but I updated everything else, so I'm not sure. When your members receive notifications from MemberClick, so when they receive emails, they'll need an email to reply back to. Do you guys have an email address where you'll want all of your member replies to go to?
We'll use the ILACP one, or we won't? That's what we use now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And I check it.
And we need to get it added on the mine.
So you can check it too. Yes, we have a generic one. Carmen will give you that.
Yeah, we have one. It's just ILACP at ilchiefs.org.
Chiefs, right?
Yeah, no, it's CHIEFS.
Thank you. Okay, awesome. And we can always update that if we needed to change it, but that's what we'll have it as in here for now.
Yeah, I went in and added like my billing contact information, a couple of things in here. So.
Oh, okay, I see. So this billing contact info, this will be just for MemberClicks to have on file, so it's on ahead and made sure it was updated.
Do you need, for the name, do you need my name or do you need the name of the association?
It can be either or. Some of my associations will do the association name, some will do a specific individual if that name, if
Now
they
that I'm
like to know
looking
who
at
you
it,
are.
my name and not the association.
Okay, Karma talking. Karma. And don't tell me I've got your last name right here. Kent. Okay. Awesome. So I'm just going to save that information. Now, the next item that we're going to look at, because we don't have any financials like invoices created for you in here, I like to use my MemberClicks test site so you can see what these invoices are going to look like once they populate or created. In your site, we would just go to financial and invoices. Now you'll notice this is that invoice list. It is empty right now because you do not have any invoices. So if we go to my MemberClicks test site, we're going to do the same thing, go to financial and invoices, and we're going to see all kinds of invoices populate in here. No matter the status or the age of the invoice, they will always be held in this area. Now that means over time, you guys are going to wind up with a lot of invoices. In order to search your invoices, to find exactly what you're looking for, you can use our search bar in the top right-hand corner. You can search by first name, last name, organization, or email, or invoice number. First name, last name, organization, or invoice number. I know I have a couple of example invoices in here. So if I search my first name, it's going to show you all of the invoices for me. And if I only cared about the paid invoices, I didn't really care to see these voided, I can use these selections at the top to even further specify what I'm looking for. So now I'm only looking at the paid invoices for me.
Okay, can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
If somebody pays like with a check and we enter it in our QuickBooks, do I need to go into MemberClicks and manually change it to paid and not pending?
That's a great segue question. Absolutely. So if you ever receive an offline payment, you'll just find the invoice that you want to apply payment for. I'm going to go back to our invoices since all of mine are showing as paid. There we go. We're going to select that invoice. This is exactly all it'll look. Of course, it'll be your logo in the top right-hand corner, your association information in the top left-hand corner. There's this note section on your invoices that you can add. Make sure you take note of this because I'm going to show you shortly where you can create these notes that populate on your invoices. Down here at the bottom, you can, means that only you guys on the back end can see that. And it'll leave a date as to when you left that comment. So I love this because if you void an invoice, I know for me, I would forget why I voided it. So you can add in a little note to yourself why you maybe made that void, made the payment, whatever the case may be. To apply that offline payment, we're just going to pay invoice. Now, it's initially going to bring you to a page for credit card payments. So if these driving down the phone, you can also select offline payment. Doing so will give you the option to choose what type of offline payment. Maybe it's check.
So that's what I would do if somebody called and wanted to pay over the phone. I would go in here and do it and run it, and it would run it through Moolah.
That's exactly right. And if it was an offline payment, then you'll just put in a reference number or check number, the date received, and then you can submit that offline payment. At that time, the invoice shows us, so it's really just an easy process.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to that invoice list. You also may have members that call and say they didn't receive their invoice, or maybe they want their invoice over in the mail versus over email. Just find that invoice, you can select it or tag it, and you can email. This is going to give you the option to email it back to them to the email address that's just in their profile, which would be their default email address, or you could change it, or you could add additional recipients.
Managing for a number of our members.
And I'm sorry, I have another question. a lot of the finances here. So we do it creating my invoices in MemberClicks rather than QuickBooks. Because right now I create all my invoices in QuickBooks.
That's exactly. All of your invoices will be created in MemberClicks, and when we're ready, we'll make sure that we go through we might do a separate little financial training together and talk more about how you would pull a transaction report and import the transaction report into QuickBooks to reconcile your accounts. So you will not need invoices in QuickBooks anymore.
Well, I will, because not all of our invoices are member related. I mean, we have invoices for sponsorships, we have invoices for online job ad, things like that aren't necessarily related to a membership.
Okay, well, we can, yeah, and we can house items like that as well. So like a lot of times what my associations will do is they'll have sponsorship forms, donation forms, partnership forms, whatever the case may be. It can be technically run through MemberClicks by using our forms, and we would just have your chart of account. I think I still need from you guys. We would just, did you send it to me?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I have to look at my notes and see when I sent it, but I did send it.
No worries, I can go back and find it. I'm making a little note to myself.
I can send it again too. I have it saved.
But basically you would just determine what revenue account you would want. I wonder if I had a question and that's why I didn't enter it. I'll look at it before the end of our call today. But anyways, so we could just change revenue account the money's filtering into, and that's going to be what determines obviously where the money goes, and then you can use the same thing in MemberClicks, the transaction report, to add that to QuickBooks.
Okay.
But you can do it, you know, some in QuickBooks and some in MemberClicks as well. I think the best practice is kind of keeping it in one location, but if it makes more sense to continue to run different items through QuickBooks, then that's not going to hurt anything.
Okay. I probably will have some follow-up questions. Take up their time, but I definitely will have some more questions.
Yeah, and it would probably be like a little 30-minute financial review, just with maybe me and you, and the rest of the team can come as well, so we can go into more detail on some of the financials and talk through some of those questions as well.
Okay.
Okay. So the other item that I wanted to mention in here is how we can create a PDF, and so that, once again, we would tag the invoice we want to print off, we would create that PDF, and we would print that invoice. So that would be how we would send that through the mail. You can tag multiple invoices at once and email them all to their respective individuals at once, so like just email, or you can create PDFs for all of these at once as well. Any questions on this invoice list? No?
Not right now.
Awesome. So then we've got some additional icons up here in the top right-hand corner. We're going to start working our way through these. The first thing I want to look at is invoice templates. Now you document for your notifications for dues renewals. And so those were those pieces of verbiage that the system's going to send out automatically in regards to those dues renewals. But if we use our system to create any other type of invoice, like what I was just talking about, partnerships, sponsorships, we don't have a notification going out letting your member know, hey, you have an open invoice that you need to pay, or hey, thanks for your payment, here's your payment confirmation. That's where these invoice templates come into play. So this is like the first piece of y'all's homework from our training today. And what I would do is I would first start by sitting down and writing a list of all the different types of invoices you feel MemberClicks will create for you guys. If you're only going to be doing due through here, at minimum, you'll need a new member, because when new members join, we're going to need some type of notification going out, either A, letting them know that they need to pay their membership invoice, or if they had to pay at time of submitting their membership application, you at least will want to set up a payment notification or a payment confirmation notification, so that, you know, nobody wants to pay and then it's just gone and they never get anything else, right? They're still going to want to receive an email saying thank you for your payment. So I have a default in here for you. The reason I created a default is because this is what your renewals will use. So even though your notifications are coming out of your invoice renewals that you guys already gave to me, we still have some items that we need set up, like when the invoice is due, any notes maybe that might appear on the invoice. So don't touch this default. This needs to be left alone just as it is. But you will want to add or create an additional invoice template, the new member for example, is that you'll definitely need, you'll want to set up a due date, and then that notes section that appeared on the invoice, that pulls from this footer information. The majority of this holds remit payment to information. So if they can submit a check, this would be that info as to where they would send the check to. So if your members take the membership application, and they do not have to pay at time of submitting the membership application, maybe they can come back and make sure that you're turning on this email to let them know that there's a new invoice email, that they have a new invoice created for them. Maybe a reminder, maybe also the past due. Now, just because I've turned these on doesn't mean anything's going to be sent out. We actually have to edit the email, which means we're adding verbiage that we're sending to them. If we don't add verbiage, it's going to send them a blank email, and that looks awful. So this is where you're going to want to make sure you add in that verbiage, whether it's reiterating membership benefits or saying thank you so much for being a part of our association. We look forward to our building a relationship with you. Maybe you have member info, upcoming events that they'll need to know about, something in this notification, but you'll also want to add in, please make sure you pay your outstanding invoice. Your membership will not begin until so, or whatever stipulation you guys might have. Same thing for the reminder email, same thing for the past due. So just because I turn these on, we're not done. We actually have to edit the email. So add that verbiage, whatever you want to say to your individual, reminding them to pay their invoice. Similar for the payment notification email, we're going to want to turn this on and edit the email, add verbiage stating, thanks for your payment. We look forward to seeing you at our upcoming convention, however you want to say it, but just basically giving them confirmation that you received payment. Now, this can also act as a receipt. So you'll notice we have a merge data tool at the bottom of the editor. If we use the merge, this will allow us to pull information from the invoice into this email. So notice there's payment data. We can add in the invoice total, payment date, the invoice due date, credit card type, credit card last 4 digits, the amount paid, the amount due. So this you can kind of put in the, hey, you still owe us money. This is how much money you owe us. This is the due date that it's owed. This is the invoice number that you need to pay. Same for like the payment notification. You guys can use these data merge fields to say, this is how much you've paid. This is when you paid it. Thanks so much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's similar to our current system's description. And so it tells what to merge in that particular record. Yeah.
Awesome. So like I mentioned previously, in order to complete these, and it'll be most beneficial if they can be completed before our next training, we'll really want to, I would just sit down, write a list of all the different types of invoices you think MemberClicks will create for you, and then create an invoice template for each one. And I'll have some resources that I'm going to send in a follow-up email to you guys that'll help you walk through that, okay? Any question on invoice templates?
Just pausing because I'm absorbing what you just said. I'm thinking for a minute about our types of invoice. Sponsors, vendors. What else, Carmen? Training sessions.
Advertising, training. We'd have to probably have a miscellaneous. Because there's sometimes one-off invoices here and there that maybe aren't repeated very often.
What about certification payments?
Certification invoices. ILACP invoices.
Certification, accreditation.
Yeah. We can put this together.
Oh, but I want us to think out loud about it for just a minute.
Okay.
So that we're thinking properly.
Gosh, I have to look at some of my last few invoices for the last couple of months. What I'm sending, because there's going to be some one-off ones that, so we'd have to have like a miscellaneous.
That's a question. What if it's just like a one-time?
Take QuickBooks like I do now and not even do it through MemberClicks? Because that's where my confusion is lying right now. Is am I going to do double work? Am I doing things in QuickBooks and in MemberClicks, or am I going to be doing some in one, some in the other? Right now, we don't do any invoices in our current web management system.
My recommendation would be to move all of your invoicing to MemberClicks. And the reason why is because, just like what you said, to me it's confusing if you're like doing some in QuickBooks, some in MemberClicks. I know from a financial standpoint of view, consistency is key. So you do have the ability to send just like, we call them ad invoices. They're just like one-off invoices. Maybe randomly you had some extra shirts left over from a conference and one of your members said they wanted to buy it. You can create a one-off invoice for $25 and just shoot it to them for them to pay.
Would that person as a prospect member, I mean, every person that we send an invoice to and add them, is that going to create a profile for them within MemberClicks? Because then our
will create,
could get out of hand eventually if we do that.
Yeah, so technically it would want to have a prospect profile for them created, just so you can hold that historical data in their profile. You can search by it, see who's bought what, who attended what. Same thing with like form submissions. Everybody who attends an event will have a prospect profile created for them, but that way you can send targeted emails with that info, export that information. It's kept in their profiles. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it leads me to another question. A lot of times our invoicing, we'll have like, say, one department will call and say, hey, can you send me an invoice for 10 members, or that they need all 10 people on one invoice. So I invoice on QuickBooks, I invoice by department, not by individuals. So that's where the problem is probably going to lie. Because our QuickBooks is set up as per department. We don't have QuickBooks set up for each individual member. It's by their department.
Can create ad hoc invoices based on, like you can create multiple line items on an ad hoc invoice. So if you were invoicing somebody and 10 people included, you can create an ad hoc invoice that would have 10 different line items on it. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, but within that, would that add that department as a prospect then? So would departments in there as prospects?
I see what you're saying. It would only add one prospect profile for the individual that you actually sent the invoice to.
Then it could be an invoice for, several people, because we do that a lot. Like if somebody's registering for a training and they're registering 3 or 4 officers from their department, we invoice the department for all those people. And our departments aren't in MemberClicks, those are in QuickBooks. Am I making sense?
I think a little bit. So basically,
I know what you're talking about. I understand exactly what you're saying, Carmen. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, you encourage a department that's going to pay for a number. You don't create presently each one of those persons in our current database. No. I register, but on the outside for billing purposes, you register them, right? Right. I register them all under their department. Because some of the attendees for a particular department might be our members, and others are just coming only for this event, and we're not going to track them in our current. Yeah, we're not going to add a prospect for each of them. So I know what you're saying. Yeah. So you presently do outside only. Yeah. QuickBooks. Uh-huh. So if I'm not sure there's a problem with creating the company for the purposes of invoicing. That way you'll know to whose email address the invoice should go, and mailing address and so forth. But if I understand what Adrian says, the invoice will have a list of several persons, their expense on the entire invoice. But I understand the problem. I'm not sure how to explain it more clearly, Adrian, so that you hear what we're talking about.
I do. And so I think I do. And so you can create one profile. So let's say MemberClicks calls you guys and says, hey, we want to come to your upcoming, we want to bring 20 of our members with, 20 of our employees with us. Okay. And maybe some of those employees are already members with you guys. Maybe some of them are not. So
Right.
member clicks could go in and take a registration form. If they're not already a member, it's going to create a prospect profile member clicks. And they can just register underneath them as many people as they want to. Now, it's going to hold in member clicks their form submission, the guests that they've registered, what we're going to consider guests, or their member clicks employees that they've registered. Two options with them. Either we can also have the system create prospect profiles for all of them, or we tell the system not to. In that case, if we tell it not to, which I would recommend, because it sounds to me like if you did, that means that duplicate prospect profiles are going to be created for individuals that are already members. So in my mind, we need to make it so that they can't, it doesn't become only that main individual that's registering everybody will be a prospect. It's going to hold in the form submission all of those guests that are registered underneath them, and it's also going to add all of those guests to the invoice as separate line items. It will not hold the in the members that already have profiles with you guys. It's not going to hold that historical data that they came to the event. The only way that we'd be able to hold that is if they registered them being accounted for on an invoice.
Yeah. Which is how it's done now too.
Well, Carmen, and I'm visualizing the,
Yeah.
and generally the chief is the first name, plural.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah.
He's the first name on the registration. And then they have others, because he's even complimentary in this case.
Right.
So he is our primary contact, and he or she may even be a member. So I don't know if I care to track that event. But our database with these maybe one-time only names, person, right? But we need to be able to tie it in with somebody, some name, whether it be a department name or one of our members' names. So I heard what Adrian said. It may be simpler to do than what I think it sounded like.
It would make sense to have somebody who's already an existing member to be the person who's registering the individuals for a conference, or but if not, you know, if MemberClicks is going to be a prospect in your database, because when next year's conference comes around, you can search for all the people that completed form submissions for last year's conference, and you can send them all an email. Hey guys, we know you came to last year's conference. We'd really love to see you again this year. You know, please register here on this link. So it gives you the opportunity to send those targeted emails. So maybe they won't be just like a one-time attendee. Maybe they'll come. Maybe that individual will register all those additional people again. I also see this used, this historical data used that you've saved in prospects. I've also seen it used to send out surveys after conferences. So you could send out some type of survey in a form. It would be a form, but it would be used as a survey to the individual saying, hey, we'd love to hear your feedback on our conference. What do you think of the speaker, the food, the organization, you know, stuff like that. So that information is kind of helpful, but then if you see that you're getting to your end of your allowance, like if you see that you've really started to use up a lot of your prospects and you need to make more room, you can kind of start searching by those prospects. When's the last invoice they had? When's the last time they have kind of been in correspondence with you? What's the last thing that they've registered for? If you haven't heard from them in a couple of years, then you can just delete their profile.
Okay.
Am I getting it? Am I answering your question?
I think so. I mean,
But if you delete their profile, it won't delete any payments attached to that.
Exactly. It's not going to delete the invoices or any of the information. You'll still have all of that. And if that prospect ends up coming back later and saying, hey, we were in contact with you guys a few years ago. We haven't heard from you in a while. We do still want to, get your correspondence, or maybe they want to join, or you can always undelete their profile and it's going to restore it just to the way it was the day that you deleted it.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of takes some of the pressure off of that delete word, because I know it's kind of scary when you hear it.
Yes, it does. All right.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. We can touch back on it as well. If you guys are in the system and you're playing around and you have questions, I always am into more questions, so we can definitely talk more into this if we need to. Awesome. So those are invoice templates. I went ahead and started creating some invoice templates just based on some of the things that you were shouting out. You can delete any of these, but definitely dive in here and edit them, add that verbiage, turn on the notification.
All right.
The next little piece of homework is the invoice settings. This one's really easy peasy. This is just going to ask for you guys to put the logo that you want on your invoices. You're just going to throw it in here. And then the organization information that you want to show up on the top left-hand corner of your invoices. So that's your organization name, whatever address you want on the invoices. If you want to include an email address, a phone number, whatever the case may be, you'll put it in this organization information box. And then lastly, down here at the bottom, you can set what invoice number our system starts at. So if you want to pick up from QuickBooks, or if you want to start at 1,000, whatever the case may be, you can enter that number down in here at the very bottom, and that'll be the first invoice number that's created in our system.
What we do now on those is, like, right now we do 200, we fund. And then we just go on a numerical order from there. And then in the beginning of 2018, I'll make my first invoice 2018 on until the end of the year, so that we can not be done, or
we can include dashes in this area, but you could do 201801 and then have it work up from there. The only problem is that, do you know what I mean? You might want to do 20101, which is going to be a really big invoice number, but that would be kind of my recommendation. And then next year you could change it to, 201, or the following year, 2019001, and continue on that way. So I'm going to go back and look for those revenue accounts, but I'm going to add them in this revenue accounts icon. All I have to do is select add new revenue account. We're going to put the name of our revenue account. The description is optional, and if it's for membership dues, we're turning on that it's used for dues. If it's not, we're leaving membership dues turned off. So this is really easy to add additional revenue accounts. If you've added a revenue account, if you have linked it to any of your forms or anything in the system, you're not going to be able to delete that revenue account. So if the collected money in it in MemberClicks, you're not going to be able to go in here and delete that. You'll have to leave it, but you can always add new. Okay. And then lastly, we have our payment processor. So this right now is still our demo. I started the application process with Mula.
actually I sent that on September 19th to
Awesome.
Hart. So I know it takes about 15 days, I'm assuming. So I guess I just haven't heard back yet, but yeah, it was sent.
Okay, cool. Yeah, she, it doesn't say integrated yet, so it's probably still being processed, and she's exactly right. It can take up to 15 business days.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Any questions on any of these items that we've gone over, any of these icons? In the financials. Okay. There is a sub-tab called transactions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we were just making a comment. I think a lot of the questions are going to come as we're using it.
They will, and I just always like to open the floor because I don't want you to feel like I'm rushing through information, but which we kind of are, which is why I record this so I can send it to you. But I know that the more your hands are in the system, the more questions you're going to have. When you guys graduate, you're probably going to have more questions just because you're starting to understand the system. You really have a full knowledge of it. You know what questions to ask, right? So that is totally usual, and that's just fine. There is a sub tab called transactions. I don't want to go over this with you guys today. I want to go over it in that extra 30-minute financial training that we're going to have, because we're going to talk about it again anyways. But basically, our transaction report is where we're going to be able to pull by particular dates. We can filter by transaction type, payment type, credit card type, revenue account type, and we can pull those transaction reports, which we're going to in turn use to import into QuickBooks. So we're going to come back to this and definitely talk about it a little bit later on.
Yeah, we have a lot of revenue accounts, so.
That I'll make sure, I'll go back and I'll see. I must have had a question and I don't know what it was.
IIF format. I'm not sure if format sent was right or not, but
you know what? I bet you it said I couldn't open it. Let me see. My face. Okay, so you sent it to me like this. Is there any way? So I'm going to copy and paste your accounts because that's the only way I can be 100% positive that they have to be the exact same. Otherwise, when we do our imports, MemberClicks is going to QuickBooks is going to revenue the money. We don't want that. Can you pull out just the income accounts you're using and send them to me in just like an Excel spreadsheet?
yes, just income accounts.
Because you're never out of members, anything with MemberClicks. You're just going to be receiving money. So we only need the income accounts.
Okay, I have that.
And then that way I'll just be able to copy and paste them. This also looks like it includes like some other things that wouldn't typically be a part of the revenue account.
Yeah, that included our entire chart of accounts.
Gotcha. Maybe just a little bit less, maybe just the income and just the actual revenue account. And then I'll be able to add that.
Even if you have to make refunds or credits,
we're not going to be pulling money out
from Clicks,
yeah.
right? You'd be doing it directly from QuickBooks, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Okay.
Well, if you have to do, or if you have to make a separate account that you're using it for, right? It's like, let's say somebody paid you $600 in dues and you're like, no, we only need $500 for some reason. You can just give them a credit of that $100. It's just going to come back out of that same revenue account. You're not using a separate expense account,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, deferred account. Yeah.
That's true.
Exactly. Awesome. Cool. I figured there was a reason I didn't put those in there. Awesome. Okay. So now the next thing I want to talk about in the system are attributes. So we're going to change gears a little bit, shift gears a little bit, and we're going to kind of wrap our head around member types and attributes and their profiles. And so an attribute is just a piece of information that is helping to describe your member. So my name is Adrienne. That's an attribute of who I am. If we go into our database tab and we go to attributes, this is going to show us the 3 different types of attributes that we have in the MemberClick system. So we've divided our attributes up into 3 different sections. We have built-in attributes. That's what you see right here on my screen. And cool, I see you've already been playing around in here. That's awesome. So built-in attributes are the pieces of information we've seen across the 1,800 plus associations we've worked with that we know you guys collect on your members, no matter what. Things like name, contact name, email address, physical address, phone number, station. Now, while we can't delete these or change these, like change what they're called, we can manipulate them in a way. So what I mean by that is we can actually collect up to 5 physical addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers for each of your members. So if we go into your email, right now it looks like you have 2 email addresses, a regular email and an alternative email. We can create up to 5 of these different what we would call labels. So you could have like a tertiary email, we could have a business email, we could have a spouse's email. And now we can't add any more because we've reached that 5 limit. Now you'll notice that we can delete what I just created. That's because we don't have fields database out for these pieces of information. So we can delete them. You'll notice I can't delete the regular email and the alternative email. And the reason why we can't delete those is because we have information tied to those pieces, to those fields of info. We have pieces of information filled into them. If we deleted it, it would mass delete all the information, and that would be bad. So we've just basically taken away the ability for you guys to delete anything that we've collected That way it prevents you from ever accidentally mass deleting information. If you wanted to delete some info, you could just let us know and we could do it for you. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. So those are those built-in attributes. The second type of attribute that we have in our system is system attribute. That's things like member number, member type, expiration date, join date, start date. Now you can't do anything to that info because the system has to have it a certain way in order to track your membership, your membership period and dues amount that they owe. So we can't see those here, but we can see them in your members' profiles. We are going to look at those shortly together. I think we'll be able to make it to that today. The last item, the last thing that type of attributes that we have are custom attributes. Custom attributes are anything that you would have collected in your database on your members that we wouldn't have known that you needed to collect. We've added these custom attributes based on what he saw in your database. Things like,
and then added 2 of them, but I'm not sure if I have to use them the way I want to use them, because you'll see that there's 2 that you can delete.
So you added certification date and certification expiration?
Because I would ideally like to add all my, we have like 118 people that are certified. I would ideally like to be able to add those dates in there so that I could track those and send out emails when they're expiring through MemberClick. So I added them, but I wasn't able to search by them, so I haven't done anything further with it yet.
Yeah, so yeah, you completed step 1. I'm going to show you the next step that we need to take after you've added a custom attribute. And man, it's awesome that you did this. I'm going to show you what we have to do next. So even though we've added it, now we kind of have to tell our system what member types these new custom attributes are going to be. We're going to look at that in just a moment. But you did it exactly right. This looks perfect. You just used your green button on that left-hand corner, added a custom attribute, and said, well, I need a date, so I'm going to use this date field, and that's perfect. Cool, and you can continue to do that if you see any additional attributes that you want to add over time. Feel free to add as many as you want to. 18 is a good number. Once you get over, I don't know, I think once you get over 30 custom attributes, it starts to become a little bit cumbersome to see in the system. Once you get over 50, to me, it just becomes too difficult to find what you're looking for when you're doing searches. But 18 is a great number. Like I said, I would keep it under 30. Just as a recommendation, you can have unlimited technically. Yes.
What you said brought to mind regarding date is MemberClick's default way that it recognizes a date with a dash or a slash, with the year first. You know, what's the default?
It's a little calendar that comes up when you click on that field. I think that it slashes, like the /. We'll have to look at it. Now that you say that, I think it's a slash. I'm pretty sure it's a slashes, but we'll take a look at it and I'll just confirm with you.
Because we've had a lot of inconsistencies in the past, especially about a person's date of birth. If they're a new member and their date of birth is entered, and if it didn't automatically switch it to a certain date format, that makes me ask the question. We don't want it to be inconsistent. And then
this will.
You know, then internally the system couldn't read there was a date if it wasn't consistent.
Definitely, yeah. This definitely will change it to be consistent, because when you click on the field to populate, it's going to give you like a little calendar, and you'll have to select the date on the calendar, the month, the year, and the date. And then it'll just automatically fill it in with the same. You can't just type something in, if that makes sense. So it'll always have the same formatting.
Thank you.
And I'd probably say 10 out of my 10 associations do this. I understand that you want this information to be required, and so you turned on that it's required. The problem is if you're missing any of this information in a member's profile right now, and you go into their profile and you update their last name, and you try to save, you're missing their physical address, the profile is going to say, you're missing information. You can't save the changes you've made to this profile because you're missing information. To me, it's annoying as all get out, because you're like, I just typed in all of this new updated info and now it's not letting me save it. To combat that annoyance, I would leave these turned off, meaning not required, And instead, when we get to forms, the membership application, event registration required. That way they can't submit the form without having the field filled in, but you have to still make changes in your existing profiles that may not have all of that data collected. Got it?
Okay, well, that was me. I went in there and changed those to on.
Yeah, that's like one of the first things I think everybody does, because they're like, we have to have this information. And that's great moving forward. We can do that with forms, but the stuff that you've collected now, you to make updates is really, what would happen is you guys would call me and you'd be like, it's broken, it's not letting me make changes. And it's just because they were turned on required. Okay. Two more things to get to really quickly. And we did not get a chance to make it through our entire database training today. That doesn't mean, right, it's just going to pick up on our next training. I'll complete this and then we'll get into our content training. And that's okay with me. I just want to make sure that your questions get answered and that we're going at the pace that's comfortable for you guys. So that's totally okay. But one more thing I do want to get to today is attribute security and profile owner attribute security. This is the last homework. The database training is really the only one that has a lot of homework items. I'm making bunny ears in the air because it's not like homework, but it's really just to encourage you guys to get in the system, play around, get your hands dirty, and get your brain kind of start thinking about questions that you might have. But profile owner attribute security and attribute security will need to be completed by you guys. Profile owner attribute security. So your members have the opportunity moving forward to go into their own profile and update their own information. So if you're missing any pieces of info from them, we'll out the welcome email. We're going to say, hey, welcome to the new site. You guys can update your own demographics. Jump into the site and update your profiles. But they can't just go in and see whatever they want to see, right? You guys have control over what your members can update, what they can see, what they can't see or update, either one. And that's done through profile owner attribute security. You'll notice we've got all of your member types along the top column or the top row. You'll just want to go through here and determine what can each of these member types do or see in their own profile. Now, another thing to think about while you're doing this is this play into data merge material. So if you're sending a welcome email, you have the ability to data merge everybody's first name in. But if you didn't give that individual the ability to see their first name, it's just going to say dear blank, which looks awful. So for example, with prospects, they technically don't even have a profile. They won't be able to see any of their information. But I always tell my associations, go ahead and let them view anything. That way, when you send out emails and you have data merged material, you don't have something not being data merged in and it looking unprofessional. So they don't have a profile. They can't update their own information, but this will allow them to be able to see any data merged info. The rest of these you'll want to go through and say, okay, sure. My active large, their physical address, maybe they can edit their email address. You're going to notice a trend, by the way, guys. Everything up at the top here in brackets, any of these names, these are built-in attributes. When the brackets stop, so we're still in built-in attributes. When we finally stop, boom, here. Now it starts into custom attributes. So we're in the middle area, there are no brackets. These are all custom attributes. Then we're going to go back into bracketed items again. Boom, here. These are system attributes. So you might want your members to have the ability to update all of their built-ins, update their custom. You will never want them to be able to update their system attributes, right? They should never be able to update their expiration date. So we can click on these boxes and give us these little icons. If we forget what the icons mean, we can reference them up here in the top left-hand corner, and it'll tell us exactly. Either they can view it, they can edit it, or it's hidden altogether. You probably want them to be able to view their expiration date. Same with join date. Same with last renewal date. Last modified date, you guys might have gone in there and done changes that they didn't know about, and you don't want them to call you up and say, my system's, it says that I modified my profile yesterday, but I didn't do any spin in my profile. So you might want to hide that. Group is a system attribute we're going to talk about a little bit later on. Your members do not need to know what this is. I would just hide it. Member status, that's probably important for your members to see. Member type, that's probably important. Username, I would allow them to see that. can allow them to update it if you want to. I would say more commonly, my associations allow their members to see it, but not update it. So you'll want to do this for every member type that you have in here. Does that process make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. It's very tedious. I understand it's time consuming, but once it's done, you'll never have to do it again. And so that's the good thing. You guys have this much kind of control over what your members can do and see in their own profiles.
No, that makes it easy.
Awesome. Now, the second piece to this is attribute security. This is also going to be tedious. Your members have the ability, the potential ability, to see directories with your other members, maybe for network working items, whatever the case may be. This will allow
that this morning, the directory availability to our members amongst themselves, yeah.
So they should have some directory capabilities.
We would love for our custom profiles to be able to see, certain information for everybody, like the
contact information.
Yeah, like their name, department, their email, their title. We would like to. Now we have to create that manually every couple of months and update it. And it's kind of tedious, but if we can do it within a system, that'd be perfect.
You sure can.
Work as a search by their last name or by a department name, but I'm sure you'll tell us about that.
Yeah. So what we would do is we're going to use this column, and we're going to have to go do this for every single member type. You guys have a good many member types. That's why it feels a little bit more tedious. But let's say we're looking at active large department. What we would ask ourselves is, if I'm an active large member, should I be able to see anything in prospect profiles? Probably not, because why would I be able to do networking with prospects? I wouldn't. They're not even going to have profiles, so it really doesn't matter. The next question, as an active large member, what can I see in other active large member profiles? Okay. Maybe I can view, you can use this to toggle all. Maybe they can view anything, but then you'll want to go here and say, well, I really don't want them to be able to see their we want
to see that. We want them to see, I'm sure as we go through the list, there'll be things, admin contacts. We won't want them to see those things.
Exactly. So you'll just have to do this for every box that they can or cannot see.
Okay.
And they cannot see their other members' ID numbers.
Right. Yeah,
so
we can go through. I said it's going to be tedious, but that won't be too difficult to go through, because they'll all basically be the same for most of our member types.
Exactly. And if you get lost, because I know for me, if I stare at one screen for too long, it's like it gets twisted in my head. Sometimes I have to take a step away. But if you get lost, just think, if I'm an active large member, what can I see in active medium profiles? If I'm an active large member, what can I see in active other small profiles? And you're just going to do that for every single one of these. Remember, you've got 11 more member types hiding over here, 4 more member types. So you've got to use those arrows to navigate to the right to make sure you're hitting all of the member types. Once you do that, then you got to do this for every single member type. Active medium, boom, same all, active large. Go through that whole entire list. As an admin, I'm just going to go ahead and do yours. Oh, perfect. Looks like maybe you guys already did, or maybe we did. You guys can see anything, do anything you want. So you guys have the green pencil for everything. Everybody else are going to have to go through one at a time and kind of determine what they can see.
Sure,
okay.
That won't be a problem.
At what point do you save your changes, or does it do it when you exit, or if you timed out, or the computer crash?
It's going to, whatever last thing you clicked, it saves. So there's nothing you have to press to hit save. So if your computer times out, it's not like all of your work is gone. It's going to save whatever the last box that you clicked, whatever that was, it's already saved.
Changes will be saved automatically, it says. So
as it goes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm going to send you guys some resources in my follow-up email. I may not get that follow-up email to you until later this afternoon because I've got a good many calls today. But I'm to you as soon as I can. It's going to have some helpful resources. I'll also include our credentials for our next call, which we've already got set up. We'll complete our database training on that call. We'll hover our content training. Usually that one's a little bit smaller. and then we'll talk about scheduling our forms training. Any questions?
Then we'll just a one-on-one training with you on some of the financials. I don't know if either of you want to be in on that or not, but I know I'm probably gonna have a lot of questions that might.
If I'm here, I'll watch.
Okay.
I don't see how that would be pertinent to me.
Okay. I just know I'm probably gonna have a lot of odd questions, and how can I schedule that? Just on your calendar?
Exactly. Use that calendar link that you have for me and just there's a 30-minute one like called Quick Questions.
Yeah,
You can
I
use
saw
that. If you want to use the full hour, don't hesitate. It might take a little bit more work to find a full hour somewhere on there. But with that being said, if you go ahead and schedule it today for maybe a week from now or 2 weeks from now, maybe 2 weeks from now, we can do it kind of when we've started wrapping things up.
Yeah, that might be a good idea, because I might learn a lot of things as I'm going through and doing things, but I'll definitely, I know I'll have some more financial questions and invoice questions and things like that.
Awesome. And we can do some testing. You guys will be able to create these invoices before you launch to see what they look like, to start to see how the notifications work and stuff like that before we actually launch. And I was going to say one more thing. I do need to jump to my next call, but what was it going to be? I cannot remember now. Oh, did you already schedule y'all's time with Jay for the social community? I can't remember if I asked you that yesterday or not.
Yes, we got that October 17th.
Awesome. Perfect. You guys are doing killer. Okay, well, that's all. I'll send your follow-up email, and I'll look forward to talking with you guys. I think early next week is our next time.
Yeah. I think we have. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, Adrienne.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Let me know if you need anything else. Otherwise, I look forward to talking with you on the 10th.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.